The other thing I was going to ask you is that we're kind of looking at a hub, aren't we? What they call a hub, and it's been tried at many clubs. And I was looking at Waltham Casuals, Basingstoke, Kettering, places like that, who have got into trouble. And how it works is that these clubs, they don't own the hub, the whole of the hub. They own the ground and the receipts through the gate. Is there going to be an operator that runs the rest of it, like the gym?
Hastings United run everything.
They own it all.
Yeah, so we would get the receipts from all the outlets. With regards to, we would if the gym, if for example a commercial company came in to run the gym, they would be paying us a rental rate, and we would be hiring out the pitches. The whole area would be Hastings United Football Club Limited. Yeah, so it'd be us. So we wouldn't be stuck, for example, like Eastbourne Borough, where all they get is the gate receipts, and the trust, the other end of the trust, get the social club. It wouldn't be like that. Okay,
and just a point on that, really. If in that case, with our proposal plan, you know, if it's about money, we couldn't, instead of putting on hold the capacity of the ground, couldn't we put on hold the gymnasium and the other things just to keep the club going forward? And
well, it's not about money. It was about the needs of the time. So the capacity, the 1950 capacity thing, isn't a money issue. It isn't.
So why don't we withdraw that initial application and put in a new one for 3,000?
George, at the time, as you've known, how long has it taken for us to be heard straight away? I think having outline, it's an outline planning application, right? It's an outline it's an outline plan application. Now, the changes that are needed, the changes that we'll do for the best interest of this football club. And Darren knows and Peter knows that 1950 doesn't allow us to do what we want to do. We, not just me, Darren, Peter, and you, the supporters, we all want this club to push on. So the outline plan application got approved. Now it's up for us to jiggle it around to get it to where it needs to be. But we've got a bigger hurdle in our way, and that's the conversations with the councillors that don't want this to happen. I think we're getting caught on something when really it's not going to be built at a level that jeopardises this football club. It won't.
I think that at this point, if we're looking for more united fan base around it and more support for the move, which feels like at the moment there's a lot of questions over it amongst the fan base, how it feels. I think to get that and to get more clarity, it might be good to perhaps put out a few of those reports on the pilot field that show how dilapidated it is, like on paper, and some of the writing that's been done about it. Perhaps a previous expansion of the main stand, and so people can understand that and see it. People like to see things in writing, don't they, Billy? So
yeah, no, I totally agree.
And then also and getting that 3,000 is where a lot of that support sort of tips on. That seems to be where everyone's at.
Yeah, because I think I get it. People were a bit fearful that we could end up in the National League South and then move to a new stadium and be relegated.
Yeah,
I get it. I'm not stupid. I totally understand that the worries and why that would be a worry. And I get the, like, you all got to remember, like, for example, I wasn't born in Hastings, but I've been here since I was 9 years of age, and I know what the pilot field means to the town. I knew what it means. It means that people like Leon and stuff who play Saturday football on the park pitches and get to a cup final and get to play their cup final at the pilot field. I know what it means to people. I know what the place means to people, and what is, I never forget coming over and you get to see that picture over the little lip, right? It's iconic with the town, but I think it's a little bit dreamlandish to think that we can, with the council who don't want to spend money in this area, that they're going to find the money for us to generate the money we need to develop the pilot field. Now, how amazing would it be if the council turned around and said, look, here you go, here's £3.5 million, do what you need to do, it's perfect, it's done. we'll all be over the moon. We'll take it. As long as there's not any clauses on it that really screw the football club long term, we'll take it with hands wide open and have the place redeveloped. But the fact is, we have to be realist, and that's not going to happen. 11 Up Fund was offered as a, look, we're going to get you on this. Okay, let's see. Like, we want to be included. Let's see what it means. And we're hearing that it's not even gonna happen.
Just a second, Bill. What's, just for people that are listening?
Yeah.
What's the Levelling Up Fund?
The Levelling Up Fund is a government fund that's been put into towns. Towns can bid for X amount of money for regeneration in areas. Now, we don't believe it's actually feasible for sporting, but the council seem to think it is. However, we're hearing that the council actually aren't going to put in their bid in time to be able to get this fund. Can't get the house in order, which is funny in that sense. But also, the council isn't in a great shape. They're not in a great shape financially in the whole. Who's to say that they're going to be in control for much longer too? So keep your eyes peeled on that with regards to the council, the local council, and what the government may have to do with that. So I look at it like this: we can wait for the council to act, or we can push the buttons and try to get some movement going. I've had conversations with councillors myself and gone, well, what is the best way forward? But no one wants egg on their face. It's a little bit, egos need to be put aside. It's not about egos now. It's about the betterment of this town. So people making decisions because they think they're sticking up for their area of the town, or, you know, wearing like a badge of honour that they're the ones that are going to stand in the way of it's got to go. Like, people got to stop doing that, and they got to stop looking for what's best, because being individual on your decisions ain't going to work. It's just not going to work. It was overwhelming that the planning went through 8-0, and then on the housing development 7-1 in favour. So it's not even that the ground went through with flying colours, and there was a little bit of a and ah about building houses on the pilot field. That went smooth as well, pretty much. So you've got to ask yourself, why not? And if it's down to the capacity issue, you know, God is my witness on this. I'm not going to allow the club to go somewhere where we have to go down.
So what happens then, state of the club? Say, for example, we know at the next decision that the stadium's definitely not happening at Tilekiln. They found some sort of rare Persian badger living there. You can't build there. It's not happening, right? Could happen, right? So there's a climate emergency. So apparently, it's not happening. What happens to the club?
George, well, it's tough times, really. We're gonna have to think. We're gonna have to look. We're gonna have to work out ways of moving forward and how we move forward, because there's a real threat that the pilot field becomes in a state that doesn't allow us to progress. People probably can turn around and go, well, you know, Darren's got loads of money, he can just pump it in. He's done that for years. He's done that for many, many years. And I think we're proud as a club that we now operate within our means, and have done for a couple of years now. We would just have to reassess where we are and be honest with you as supporters and be like, look, we need to move. Right now, we need to move. There's no denying that we need to move, because eventually, John, that stand is not going to get the big green tick. And I think we're under a decade away at that. You know, I was told 8 years last year.
When I just thinking though, Billy, you know, when Walters left, Mr. Walters, the finances of the club were good. You see the reports then. That was based on 300 or 400 coming through the gates. Now, those finances have remained good, and we've kept the pilot field open, etc., etc. We've now got a potential, if we do well in this league, if we get promoted, that will go up and up. And the revenue coming through the gates is sufficient to maintain the pilot field.
It's not, John. John, it's not. Like, well, I don't. And I'll tell you why it's not. You said about Mr. Waters leaving the club in good financial situation when he left. If you didn't get to the third round of the FA Cup that year, do you want to know the conversations Dave Waters was having before the start of that season about the football club and going with his begging bowl to the council because the club had no money? So if the FA Cup run didn't happen, we might not even be on a Zoom call right now. Let's just say that.
Was it him that came up with the idea to sell off, to build houses on the pilot field then, and as a way of saving the club?
Look, I believe these plans have been, I think Dave Nestlin actually has presented these plans to previous owners before he got involved back in the club, when Dave Ormerod brought the club and Darren come involved. So these plans and the way of doing it have been around for a long, long time. I think over 20 years, John, really. Yeah. So this isn't a Darren Burney thing, like let's sell the pilot field. This is something that has been looked at as a way of financing and keeping this club afloat, because there's a reason why this club has changed hands so many times and popped around and not had money and pulled budgets in January and got relegated and had all this. There's a reason. There's a reason. And I'm telling you what, the more successful we are, the more money we're spending, because we are generating more money, don't get me wrong. But to be competitive, we're having to spend more to freshen up what the club is doing, to be able to do these new initiatives, to be able to give free coaching into the town with decent coaches. We're having to spend a lot more money. So there's associated costs with success. It's not just we're successful, so the profit margins are bigger. It's not the case. Like the crowds are going up, but the crowds are getting younger. The families are coming in through the gate. A lot of under 16s are coming in. We're proud that we don't charge under 16s to come into the ground. So when you look at things, when you look at it clear and when you paint and go, well, there's 1,500 people on the ground, they must be making 15 grand today. Not always, and not with a competitive budget, which we have to be able to compete in the leagues. Now we could go and half that, but I'm pretty sure our attendances would dwindle with a mid-table side. So I think it's not as easy as success means more money, which means we've got money to do X, Y, Z. Success means we need to spend more money to maintain success and grow success. That if we want to be ambitious in the league we're going into now, budgets had to go up. Otherwise, we're just going to be fighting a mid-table battle and maybe a relegation battle. You don't want that. I don't want that. The club doesn't want that. We think we can financially manage it to be able to be competitive. But we can't gamble on the big gates we're getting if we're not still pushing forward, because ultimately we know how fickle things can be. It can go back quickly to 500 people, 400 people watching if we're not doing the right things in the community by what we're doing and doing it on the pitch, which is ultimately the biggest driving force of success.
Yeah, I can understand it's been a real act of generosity, the way that, with the academies, with the various teams, how they're involved, and you see that in the younger attendances. There's a real enthusiasm that's been fantastic. But it's very good unless it spreads finances too thin and you end up with the club at risk, which is, non-league football, it's not the most profitable area of business, is it?
No, it's not.
And but I still think we're just in this crucial position where if we're not going to at least ask the question about what would the council intend to help us with the pilot field, then if we've asked that question and it's rubbish, then that's that. But I just feel that talking about being realistic, which we all try and be in our own way, I just think it's more of a probability that we will be in a situation where we cannot be promoted. And that is a dark place to be.
And that could be at both sides, John.
It could be, but it's just heading that way. Unless the ground's built with the assurance that very soon it can be up upgraded. And I think the regulations say you've got to be 3,000 plus working towards with a plan for 4,000, because that's obviously
we couldn't move into a 1950 capacity stadium being in the National League South. We couldn't do that. And as a club,
I think plans can be renegotiated. I know that it could, although we don't know how long before any decision will be made, but would you say, Billy, surely now is the time, with those risks to the club there, that to renegotiate this plan, to say, right, all we want to change is that capacity. If it's not money involved, then it's about negotiation.
First things first, we've got to convince the council, the councillors, let's just say, who are saying that they won't allow anything to happen on these spaces because they want green space. Ultimately, as it stands right now, they're saying that, so there is no new stadium. So we're talking about hypotheticals at the moment, really. They've also came out in that March statement, so they're going to try and help us redevelop the pilot field. Now, they've not shown since that moment, and there has been communication. Because it's not been forthcoming and has been slow from them, doesn't mean we've not had the communication, right? Because it's not, nothing, it's so horrible to, I don't want to knock individuals because it's not what I'm about, but it's so frustrating when, if you're saying that, you're going public and saying that, back it up. Please back it up with something. Yeah. Don't come out and confuse our supporters base by saying that you are going to help us redevelop the pilot field, which is, by the way, the biggest space move you could possibly make, because it makes them look like the good guys that they want to save.
Nice
the
wrestling
pilot
quote there. Thank you. I like that.
Yeah. I thought, from me, that is mental, because unless you can back that up, all you're trying to do is put heat on us, and it's not. And it's just not the way forward. It's just not. Come up with something. Tell us. Or even better, don't
Billy, just on that, as you know, as a supporter, one of the frustrations is that it's very hard to have a positive input into all of this. In that, clearly, as John said, the council has sort of said, well, look, we'll help you to redevelop the pilot field. Now, that may well be complete bollocks, but somebody needs to hold them to account on that and kind of go, well, there you go, put up or shut up then, let's hear it. But as a supporter, how do I do that? I mean, we've just had an election. How do I do that? How do I, because it seems to be that the council is the obstruction here, isn't it, really?
100% Ian. Look, the fact of the matter is, well, the problem is not many people go out and vote in these elections. The turnout was absolutely dreadful, to be frank. And a lot of them, the ones locally, saved the pilot field. I don't know if anyone heard, was it Mike Turner? Like, his 2.5 minutes were golden. And
scum.
Yeah, it's just
scab.
He told us that the places are disgusting as well. So I don't know. Like, I think the problem you've got is they have got to be held accountable for it, Ian. But like, it just, everything takes a lot of time, and as support, maybe Adam, maybe from the supporters club, maybe the question's got to be going from the supporters club. We are concerned about our football club. You've come out publicly in March and said X, Y, Z. What is going on? And if they can't answer the supporters club, then you know exactly the problem we've got.
What if they did come up with a really good plan?
John, I would love to hear it.
For the pilot field. Okay, so we need to hear it. We need to hear what they've got.
John, I told you their plan. We're going to find you free. Well, how much money do you need to redevelop the pilot field? Okay, we're going to put you in this levelling up fund. So we go, wow, thank you. We'll keep quiet now and wait for that to happen. Thank you, council. And then they don't put it in. And
well, has it?
Enough funds.
Yeah.
Send them this video as well. When this comes out, please send them it.
Yeah, of course. Someone send it over. Because, John, if they come to us and say, look, this is how you can redevelop the pilot field. This is we commit X amount of funds towards it because we can get X grant, right? The problem is time. So they will drag like everything, just drags their heels to another election. Suddenly they're in Purdue and they can't do nothing. I've experienced that twice already as chief exec here. The fact that elections come around so bloody quickly, so nothing really actually gets done, which is so frustrating. And we're not the only ones. There's loads of things in this town that don't get done, and it's frustrating so much. I have no faith, John, that our council will come up with a plan for the pilot field. Now, I'm happy to be proven wrong, and like I said, if someone could come to a plan and show us and actually say it's going to happen, I hold my hands up and be like, yeah, let's do it. But to this point, nothing.
Well, I mean, as I say, I think.
And I'll tell you something, John. Money wise, sorry, Ian. Quickly, I'll just quickly. Money wise, who do you think paid the council's legal fees for everything that we did? When we're talking about the Tilekiln project, about the lease agreement, about what would be in the lease agreement, who picked up the bill? Not the council.
Maybe, I don't know. Obviously, the big drive was you've got a piece of land there and 87 houses that are going on there in the future. You know that, and I know what you're saying about funding it, but the council have got to at least have their opportunity to say, if you stayed at the pilot field, we do this. Let them show their cards, and you know, and I know I'm not against business. You know, we know how the business world works. But as fans, there's many that, you know, their disposable income goes on travelling home and away for this club. We 100%. Love them. 100%. You know, we love the club. And so for me, it's not about business, it's about Hastings United, you know, and finding a way to get the best for the club, because we know what's happened with these other clubs. You know, there's these wonderful schemes, and at the moment, this scheme, the probability is that we'll be supporting a club that can't get promoted, and that's looking at it realistically.
John, what I was going to say was that if there are effectively two paths that create a sustainable future for Hastings United, you might disagree about which one should be followed, whether it's stay at the pilot field, build a new ground. Both of those roads have Hastings Borough Council slap bang in the middle of them in the way at the moment. That in both cases, the council is the obstacle to achieving either of them. So we need tangible ways of holding them to account.
Yes, I think it is open dialogue, you know, seeing what plan they've got up their sleeves, really, and just this other thing that I know George has said it and I've said it. It's this thing we don't want. If we're going for the new ground, we want assurance. We want it either to be built with the right capacity or a written no getting out of assurance that they will say yes as soon as you need it. We're stepping up.
But even before that, they need to say that we can actually build the thing.
Yeah.
Well,
otherwise,
there's no point in us moving unless we've got that guarantee, is there?
No, I can't understand really how they're not.
Then, so let's just say this: we can build to 4,000 capacity. Yeah, let's just say hypothetically we can do that, right? We have that in writing. Then what's the best option for the football club? Tell me that. So I love to know. I love to know what people think. What would be the best? And it's forget business for Hastings United Football Club as a football club. What would be best for us as a football club?
I think it'll always be split. It'll always be split amongst the fan base. I don't think you'll ever get 100% want to move away. Even if it was 100,000 that, you know, with free tickets and whatever, you would never get full. But I think you get a lot more with the guarantee of moving up to 4,000. A big percentage chunk, more support.
By the way, it'll just secure our future as a football club, and I genuinely believe that. I wouldn't want to put this club in any risk. I don't want to be the guy that helped move the football club to a new ground and it be a shambles for this football club, financially and business wise around what we do to facilitate our growth as a football club. It'd be game changing. I'm trying to find ways to make more money at the pilot field, and I'm trying to find ways to bring more money into our football club. And guys, I'm hitting a brick wall. I have to be honest. There's things that we do and the way we try and engage and everything we're doing. There's not much wriggle room. And Adam knows. Adam helps us out and works in events that we do and stuff. He can see the levels of. Well, Sam worked for years, right? You know, in our bar. You know, there's certain things that really hinder us, and it all does come down to finance. And in an ideal world,
I haven't got the nostalgia of the pilot field, but personally, going back to what your question was, I personally think at 1950 build it, and then worry about the you know, like as you go ahead or as you go along, worry about increasing it from there, the capacity from there, because as you say, there is no long-term future in the pilot field. The club can't finance it, and certainly if you're looking to go forward, you know, with the budget that's going to come out at the higher levels, you can't finance a pilot field, and the council are not going to. I think you've just got to move ahead, even if it's at 1950, and worry about that when you go further.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to. I think for me, with George, John, and what everyone else is saying, I would hope that we can do something where the capacity is right for the football club and at the right time out. So, if, for example, we're in the National League South, then we all know what we got to do. Simple as, right? We all know what needs to be done. If we're in National League, we know what needs to be done, and you never know. In 2 years' time, we could. If I can somehow fix the pilot field in some sort of shape, we could be in the National League. You just don't know. But I think my biggest fear is being stuck at a stadium that we can't generate the funds to fix, if that makes sense. That's a real big fear of mine, is that the main stand, when that gets the big X on it, the cost to demolish it would be astronomical now, like astronomical, and to replace that will cost a lot of money, and how do we fund that? And I think that's a fear. That's the biggest fear of mine at the moment, is time running out on us on pilot field. And I know it sounds really sad, and you know, I'm Mr. Optimistic and that and what have you, but that's the biggest fear I have running this football club is time ticking on too quickly, and I can't find a solution.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying from your perspective, but I don't think it's ever been a considered plan to actually fix the pilot field and look at that, and because otherwise it's not a business venture, is it? I mean,
no, John, it has.
You've got 87 houses that are going on in there.
I've seen plans for a redeveloped pilot field. I've seen the
where from? Who's done the surveying? You know, I mean,
hey, John, let him speak. He's answering you.
Yeah, Dave Neston showed me them and showed me what would happen, where a car park would go, and how that would be, and that's been talked about over the years. But the biggest question is, how do you fund it?
But that's where we've got to find out what the intentions of the council would be.
But John, the council will not pay for the. Now they've come out and said they will help, right? When did that press release go out, when they said no to Tilekiln? What, start of March? Yeah. What's the date today? 8th of June.
Yeah, so we're 3 months on.
Okay, so not hard to find. I've spoke to the council. I spoke to Paul Barnett many times. He's got my phone number. He was the guy who delivered me the bad news before it came out. He said, "Send me your number. I'll give you a call." I'm not hard to find. Darren's not hard to find. don't go out and say you've got an idea to do it and not tell the people who need it to be done. Like, I could go out there today and say, I've got an idea. I can tell you lot, we're going to start the pilot field and we're going to redevelop it. And all you lot will go, yes, Billy, you're the man of the people, man of the fans, rah, rah, rah. And you all think I'm amazing, that I'm going to keep us at the pilot field because it's the club's history and all that stuff. But how? And
so it's Billy picking up on the pilot field, Billy. From seeing both sides, from the fan side and from working not necessarily for the club, but with the club behind the scenes, I think maybe it's a little bit of a misconception that maybe you, Darren, Peter, don't particularly care about the pilot field, and the long-term goal is to move away and move somewhere bigger with more facilities. I sort of want to back you guys up and say the amount of time, money, effort spent patching up the pilot field so we can go there year in, year out and play football, I don't think everyone sees.
No,
and I don't think it's just it's not just the main stand, is it, that needs to be patched up and get through the grading. It's the other facilities within the ground, like the bar, the toilets, things like that also have to run through. And don't get me wrong, we'd all want a bigger bar there to go with the main stand.
Yeah.
But there's lots going on that maybe we're not all seeing. And the amount of time that you're there, and over the last 5 years, I've spent, minimum of days there every week. And we'd all rather stay there, but it's financially seeing a way to do it, and not just all the money we make in the bars and things like that going to patch the place up and not move it forward.
That's what happens at the moment, as you know, like something will happen. So we'll have a good week and then suddenly, the decking, the bar needs to be done and it's going to cost X amount of thousands of pounds, or ground grading comes in that time I just mentioned, but you need to replace this whole fence. So I had to get a quote and it's $6.5 grand. You're like, bloody hell, where are we going to find that from? That's the consistent situation in the stadium as old as ours, is unless you're going to just bulldoze everything and start from scratch and rebuild, and it's going to cost millions of quid. What we're doing is patchwork, and it does add up, and it is expensive every year, and it does eat away at the club, and it does eat away at what we do, and it does eat away at our funds and what have you. You can't be further wrong the fact that the attachment to the pilot field's not there. Like, for me, it's massively there. It's the only place locally. Like, you had that. I used to love the days of the pilot field and then up the road the Firs. Like, I'm gutted every time I go up to Education Futures Trust to hold the lease on that area and see the state of the old place and what it was, and visualizing what it was as a kid. And when you used to be able to literally stand there and look down on the pilot field, and when you're at the pilot field, you could hear the roar up there. Like, for me, that's ingrained in me as a teenager. That's what I did on my Saturdays. Whether Hastings Town are at home or St Leonard's were at home, we used to jump back and forth for 3 o'clock, go to either one, right? So my connection to this town, and I know Darren and Peter have been worried about, and I was worried when they first come in, like, who are these guys coming in, these outsiders? I think the connection to the place is there, and I hope you lot see it, and don't just think we're there to turn a business venture, really, because ultimately I don't earn nothing from this. Like, what? I earn nothing from a new stadium. I don't get a percentage in my pocket or an upgrade or a little token gesture. I get nothing. But what I want to do is protect this football club and protect our future and actually give us a future. Because all that's going to happen, if it's unviable for Darren or Peter or myself or anyone associated with the club now, falls into someone else's hands. And then who are they going to be any good at doing it as well? You don't know. I think the future of this club has to be secured, right? And whether that's a new stadium, or an upgraded pilot field, it has to be secured in some way, shape, or form. The council will come out in March. We're going to help with the pilot field. It's now June. I've not heard one thing or one response to anybody email that's been sent to say they're gonna change your life and have the pilot field modernised and made better for this football club, because that ain't gonna happen with this council. So we can live in our bubble and hope for the best, or we can do something about it. But I do understand the feelings of capacity. I do, and I'll be a liar to you lot if I would stay at this club and be at this club without ambitions to go higher, because I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
We have to. Sorry, Billy.
Yeah,
I think we have to look as well. Is something that come up in the meeting is how we're perceived, not only by the council, but other people in the town. And I don't know who it was, but someone said, we've got a social club there that no one uses. And that was one of the reasons why we should stay or something. Yet they're missing the point that social club's used minimum Friday, Saturday every week, full up with guests. We had every family from every level of the boys' academy in there on the weekend, and people are saying it's not used. So it's not just how the council perceive us and what we're doing and what we're trying to do. The town needs educating on it as well. And I think that's a little bit what the council are looking at, that, well, hang on, unless you're a Hastings fan, you don't know about Hastings.
And also, we're the first to be blamed, Dad. So recently there was a drainage issue at the bottom of the ground, right? So one of the drains burst, and it was like every time rain come down, it's hammering. And a couple of neighbours are blaming us, saying it's our fault because we're putting blue roll down the toilets and all that sort of stuff. I'm thinking, well, we don't even have blue roll in those toilets. You'll be lucky. And long story short, Southern Water did come out and fixed it all. And they were like, well, this actually isn't, your drains are fine. Your drains are fine. It's actually coming from it. The neighbours wouldn't take it like, no, wait, this has to be the football club's fault. It had to be the football club's fault. And it's really frustrating, because you've got neighbours that really don't want us there, but don't want houses as well. So they come to you and tell you, well, you should build a fence so I can't hear this noise here. And I'm like, well, why should I build a fence there? Like,
oh, I love them.
And so everyone's going to have an opinion on what's right and what's wrong. I think John's and all of our connection to the pilot field, I think, has to be taken into consideration. And the first thing I asked when I came to the club was, why can't we just rebuild the pilot field? And it was simple. Finances don't make it feasible, because you've got nothing to put into it, if you know what I mean. There's nothing to generate the money that needs to be to build a new state-of-the-art facility. By building houses, it sustains the future of this football club. Now, what Darren and Peter are trying to do, and I'll wrap up, because Chris, I think this has been forever.
Yeah, I've got one question. I've got one question for you.
That's right.
But I'll just quickly cut in, because it's actually about transport. Yeah, because I've got quite a few questions about it, but I've been trying to tuck in, but I know that everyone wanted to have a little word. Right. So one of our fans who lives in Pevensey Bay, and his question was about public transport provision. What will be made? I mean, I know we were at the planning meeting, but a lot of other people weren't and haven't seen it. What is the club going to lay on in terms of getting people from Hastings Station, or I don't know if you're going to just be doing it from just Hastings Station or other stations, and getting people up to the pilot field equally, not just for our home fans, but for away fans? Is there anything going to be laid on?
So we're going to have shuttle buses running from Hastings train station. So to start with, it would be, well, it might go up based on the tendencies, but the idea was to have buses running, 4 buses running, so one every half hour or every 20 minutes, leading up to kick off, 2:30 to then get them into the ground. Then 4 back as well. Now, if we need more, we increase that. So we're looking to do that. The bus links are fine around the area. So, for example, people can on public transport can get the bus to the Tesco's and then walk through. The way that's done will be fine. The pathing that we put in will be fine, and it'll be well lit, and for obviously evening games and what have you. For parking, local industrial estates obviously have a lot of car parks that aren't used in the evenings and at weekends, so we'll be using those as well. So with regards to Plastica and a couple of the other sites that are around that area. So transport wise and getting in and parking and overflow parking and all that sort of stuff is there. I'm sure people have noticed recently that the council have now taken it on themselves after many, many years to now start issuing tickets on match days down Elphinstone Road. So now they moan about it, and the locals are now moaning about it. That the fact is, our fans are going to get parking tickets now if they're parking on curbs and stuff like that. So it's just not, where we are, it's just not actually feasible really for growth anyway, because we're slap bang in Elphinstone Road. Where can you park around there? Even if you build a car park somewhere, where's your car park to a significant enough level for where we want to be? We're going to be hindered whatever. And I think transport is an issue that we brought up in the meeting, and something that I think was answered well, because it was a big green tick for two of the councillors who asked those questions.
Cool. Yeah. Well, thanks, Billy. Unless anyone else has got any questions, I'll wrap this up. Anyone else got any questions?
Just to summarise, really, yes, I might be labelled as a dinosaur, and I've said that before. But thinking about it, if there was a reason that made sense in my mind, that's why I'm asking questions, and we appreciate Billy's put himself on the line to be here. But if there was a reason that made sense in my head to move to a new ground and to move forward from there, because we've had the most fantastic season ever, and I think I don't forget that, in all my years coming up here. But if the reason was that we're not hindered from moving forward and there's not a risk of us losing everything as other clubs have done, then yes. So I'm just thinking on this point about whether we've got to have that assurance from the council. Yes, you will get the extension when you want. Otherwise, we have to build it only when we've changed that agreement.
Agree. I agree. Totally agree.
Yeah. I think Ian's right, isn't he? That no matter what route we go down, the council are in the middle of our destination.
They got to come and play ball. They've actually got to start liking football for a start over there.
And we do have to remember, I think what you said a while back, Billy, is if the stand is condemned and we're still at the pilot field, then we can't play football there in the level we're at.
And John, I know you say about it passing, but I genuinely, poor Pat, I feel sorry for him. I think he has sleepless nights over that main stand, and all of you can ask him how he feels about it. But especially when I'm ramming people into the ground, he's like, "Are we sure we've got like not too many in the main stand?" He gets a bit panicky at times. But I do fear the day of the main stand being condemned. Like it's over 100 years old.
Yeah, it survived the '87 hurricane and everything.
Exactly, but I'm telling you, it's. I don't want to scare people from not turning up, but it's at a point where we're close, and I laughed it off when I first come to the club. I laughed. I went, that'll girl be there for the next century, but being there daily, I'm seeing what the issues are. But
Billy, they used to build things well back then. You think of the Titanic and things like that.
Right.
On that note,
on a lighter note, we have got Agent Malk here. When's Stoney getting signed up, Billy? Or are you in negotiations? You're in negotiations now. What?
We might announce it at some point this week.
Yeah, Bill. When there's an announcement on Twitter, we know we love a bit of suspense, mate. But
come on.
Yeah, there's a few grumbles going on behind the scenes with these that announced at 10:15. Is it 10:15 in 2023, or waiting for these Twitter announcements? So.
It was a technical issue, George. It was a technical issue.
Yeah, well, there's going to be a riot, mate. Right, absolute riot.
Was everyone happy with the announcement though? Was it all right?
Yes. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, all the announcements, mate, so far, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. I said it to the paper today. We are announcing one by one, but expect look, expect not much of a turnover with the squad.
Brilliant. That's what we want, isn't it?
Well, chaps, Big Malk, Ian, Smithy, John Wills, George, and obviously as well Billy Wood. Thanks for this. We'll get this out. Please share it. Let's make that conversation with the council happen.
100%.
Yeah.
And guys, just if you need, I'm not hard to find. If you've got anything that you're worried about, I'm easy to contact, and we'll always give you the most honest answer I possibly can give, the most candid answer, even if it's not what you want to hear, because ultimately you entrust me at this football club to do what I do. And I hope I carry on proving to you that what I do is for the benefit of this football club.
Thanks for that.
Well
Cheers,
done, Billy. Thank you.
Take care, guys. Yeah.
Thank you.